Are you a potential home buyer going through the pre-approval process, or maybe you're just starting the home buying process with the idea of getting pre-approved and wondering about shopping lenders? Should you shop lenders? Well, the simple answer is yes. And in today's video, we're going to talk about how to properly shop lenders. We're going to talk about who to talk to when shopping multiple lenders. And lastly, we're going to talk about what you look for when shopping these multiple lenders. Now, many times it comes down to the interest rate, but I want to ask you to look a little bit further than interest rate and talk about some other things that you have to consider when shopping rates. Now, I want to start today's video by telling you I'm not a mortgage lender. My name is Jeb Smith. I'm a real estate broker here in Southern California. I was a mortgage lender for over 10 years. And I've had a lot of the conversations that I'm going to have with you today, but I have no skin in the game. I'm bringing this information to you to truly help you to make sure you're not getting taken advantage of when going through the pre-approval process and shopping different lenders. And lastly, if you need a lender, I will be happy to refer you to one. At the end of the video, I'll put a link up on the screen to talk to an expert, somebody that I know personally and trust. But I want to start today's video by talking about how to properly shop interest rates. Well, most people start the process by getting a quote from, say, a bank, or they walk into their credit union and they get a quote. And that is the quote that they start the process with. They get back to their lender and they say, hey, I've been pre-approved. This is the interest rate that I've been given. And then oftentimes when talking to their real estate agent, their agent says, well, did you get another quote? Did you get a comparison? And many times the answer is no. And so at that time, what happens is that potential home buyer goes out and gets another quote. Now, what could have happened during the initial quote and that second quote is a couple of days could have passed. In some cases, it could have been a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months, depending on the market and how quickly they found a house or didn't find a home. There could have been multiple things happening with regards to mortgage-backed securities and interest rates during that period of time, which could have affected interest rates. So what I want to be clear on is when you're shopping for interest rates, you need to do it in the same time frame. You really need to do it on the same day. You need to have conversations with multiple lenders, and not as quickly as you can, but within a reasonable amount of time. You don't want to have one quote at 8 o'clock in the morning and then another quote at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, especially if it was on a volatile day, right? If the Fed came out that day and changed the Fed funds rate, that might have affected the interest rates at that time, right? That may have had an effect on interest rates, which may affect your quote. So in order to compare two lenders, it really needs to be within a short period of time. Why? Because it's much easier for one lender to quote a much lower rate when rates have moved down during that period of time. But if you're getting quotes on the same day, around the same time, then everything should be comparable with regards to that broker, the interest rate that you're being quoted, if there's any points being paid, all of that stuff. So start the process in shopping for rates by talking to a lender, ideally on the same day, and maybe you get pre-approved to start with one lender and then you end up talking to another lender a couple of days later. Well, if that's the case, then call that original lender that you got pre-approved with first and have that conversation. Just say, hey, look, I'm looking for an updated rate. Can you provide that to me? And that way you have some point of comparison. And that's going to take me in, who do you talk to? Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned maybe you walk into your bank and get a quote. Maybe you bank with one of the large institutions out there. You have a banker that you really like and you go in and talk to them and they refer you to the mortgage person on site. That's completely fine. And the same could be said for a credit union. But what I'd like to ask you to do is also talk to a mortgage broker, somebody that doesn't work for the credit union, doesn't work for the bank, but may actually have access to their programs. And the reason I say this is because oftentimes brokers' interest rates are better because they can shop them against multiple lenders, right? They can find out who is the best price lender that day and send your loan to that lender. Whereas if you walk into a large institution or a credit union, oftentimes they only have access to their programs. They don't broker anything. So if it doesn't fit into their box, many times they can't even do the loan. But when it does fit into their box, they have their interest rates that they provide on that given day. whereas a broker is able to take your same exact loan and many times shop it with that same lender that you walked into, but also take it to many other institutions out there. And oftentimes you'll end up with a lower interest rate by doing that. In addition to often getting lower fees. Just make sure when you're going through that process with multiple lenders, you're talking to multiple types of lenders. You don't want to just talk to different banks. You don't want to walk into Bank of America and get a quote and then walk into Chase and get a quote, right? You might want to walk into a B of A and then walk into a credit union if you have one, but also talk to a mortgage broker. Let one of the people you talk to be a mortgage broker because again, oftentimes their fees are better and their interest rates are better. And that's going to take me into the last thing that we're going to talk about, and that's what to look for. What are you looking for when comparing these different lenders, right? Well, the easy answer is you're looking at interest rate and you're looking at fees, but it goes a bit beyond that. But let's start by talking about that interest rate, right? Many times buyers out there, home buyers, potential home buyers are only looking at the interest rate without looking at the fees. So yes, you're comparing interest rates across multiple lenders, but you're also comparing cost. What is it actually costing you to get that interest rate? And how you're going to find that is box A on the loan estimate. When you look at box A on the loan estimate, that summarizes the fees that you're being charged by that lender in order to do that loan. Now, my personal lender doesn't charge any fees, so that box is going to be blank. But oftentimes there are lenders out there charging fees, sometimes, ancillary fees, sometimes they're charging you fees in order to buy down the interest rate. But this is how you compare one lender to the next. You're looking at the interest rate and then you're looking at the fees it's costing you to get there. So if one lender is offering you maybe an eighth less on a loan, but it's charging you a couple of $1,000s to get it and you're only saving a little bit per month, then maybe that deal isn't really a deal after all because it's going to take you multiple years to recoup that cost. So just understand when you're comparing lenders, which I advise you to do, you're looking at box A, and every lender that you get a quote from should be providing you with some sort of estimate in addition to quoting you an interest rate. That way you have something to compare. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned it's not always about interest rate, right? You might find a lender that's quoting you the best rate by a long shot, and that really shouldn't be the case. Oftentimes, most lenders out there are going to be pretty close with regards to the terms that they're offering. A lender that's offering significantly better terms than everyone else is a red flag in my opinion. And I think that's why it's important not only to look at the interest rate and the fees, but also pay attention to the communication. Just because a lender's quoting you a super low rate, if they can't end up closing the transaction for you, it doesn't really matter what you were getting quoted to start with. So not only do you want a lender who is quoting you really good fees and really good terms, you also want a lender that can actually do the job that they said they were going to do. And so it goes a little bit beyond, or in my opinion, a lot beyond just what you're being quoted. And make sure you're dealing with a professional, an expert in your field. You don't want to go with the guy who knows absolutely nothing, is just quoting you a low fee to get the deal in the door and ends up changing things, right? You want someone that knows what they're doing, can guide you through that process, and communication is going to be key during this period, right? You want to make sure the lender is following up with you, getting back to you, actually doing what they said they were going to do. They said they were going to get you a pre-approval or get back to you within a certain period of time. You want a lender that's actually doing that. If you have a lender that's starting the process by not responding, by not communicating, by not getting back to you, then you probably want to move on very early in the process because this is probably a telltale sign of what's to come. On top of that, you can actually take their licensing number, it's nationwide, and type it into the NMLS and look at their experience. You can see how long they've been doing loans. Why is this important? It's important because you want somebody that knows the business, that is a professional. Yeah, oftentimes, if you have a large down payment, super high credit scores, maybe your transaction is a little bit on the easier side, easy to get done, one of those that anyone can do. But what I can tell you in doing this almost 20 years is that there are always hiccups. Many times things don't go quite as smooth as they should, not because of something you're doing or not doing, but because the lender, the bank that they're actually sending the loan to, is misinterpreting something or coming back with a condition that should be easy to clear, but your broker may not know what they're doing because of the lack of experience. So just make sure not only are you looking at the best fees, the best terms, but you're also looking for communication, somebody that can answer your questions, right? They don't have to call you back every single time you have a question to get you the answer. They actually know the answer because they have the experience. And you want somebody really that has that experience, and you're able to look that up based on their NMLS ID, which every single lender should be providing in an email signature and on the documentation to you. Now, if you're watching this going, yeah, Jeb, all of this makes sense, where do I find a lender that I can trust, someone that can guide me through that process? I would say start with a referral, somebody that that's had a good experience, that trust who they used. And if you don't have someone like that, do me a favor. I'm going to throw a link up on the screen here. Go to this website. I'm happy to refer you to an expert, a mortgage expert, anywhere in the United States that can guide you through that process. These are people that I know, like, and trust, and know that they know what they're doing and will take really good care of you. So if you don't have someone, do me a favor, click on that link. Now, if you're someone watching this and wondering about different types of loans, maybe you're considering an adjustable rate mortgage, check out this video here. And then also, if you're thinking about how you can use the seller's money to buy down the interest rate and actually save you money, I put a video here. So check those out. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I appreciate the support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.